So, StoreMelder MB is a module browser hack, and this one is made as module. It has a comebacker version from 0.6, and if you doing the right click, you will see Trust General Browser, and you can use favorites function as well, for example. But it also has modern version of version 1 browser. And the thing is to get this module will be not appear in VCV library and probably ever, so you should get it from StoreMelder GitHub. I will place this link in the description. So you have to download this module from StoreMelder GitHub. I will put this link in the description. Click on the assets and choose your operating system in zip archive. So next you're gonna do is a click on desirable archive and choose plugins one folder, and then just press save and it will be installed even without unpacking the archive. So to get it working properly, I absolutely recommend it to save into your start template. Once you load it, you will see that your module browser, especially version 1, will change, and you see that long-awaited options as sorting, hiding, favorites, and zoom in or zoom out was been added. So what could you do with the new mod browser? A lot of things actually, and my favorite one is the hiding. So you can choose a module, press the right click or press the Ctrl H button and then hide module. As you can see, I just sorting out 100 modules to show you it a bit later. And this is actually my favorite one, as I said before. It extremely increases the speed of browser appearing and increase your speed of workflow in Invisibirek. So using this function, I just hidden to nearly 2000 of modules. And you may ask me how to look on already hidden modules. Just press Ctrl or Command and space and you will see all of them, just with a bit of opacity. And that's simple enough. And next function is the favorites. Long-awaited one, so you may add some to favorites on using Ctrl F hotkey, then go to the favorites or just pressing a space bar and you'll be all set. Also, you can share your favorites and hidden modules by using this option. You can share it with other users. I'm gonna share it with my Patreons as well, my top 100 modules. And you can import, actually this is made by JSON file. So next, for the sorting options, here you can sort by module name, random, most used, last used, recently updated. Also you can filter it by the brand. And as for main version browser, you can reset your filters just by hitting a backspace. And this is a nice thing you can do with a random actually, when you need some inspiration for your patching, for your current patching. So you just press random and start hitting backspace. So your chosen modules, when you hide some unneeded one, and you will see random options, but only those that you need for patching. And it's pretty cool. It's pretty inspiring and increase the speed of your workflow. So, and absolutely amazing feature as a preview is slider. Please notice it has the same back as Invisibirek with OpenGL, so you need to carefully set it to prevent those visual glitches, or just hit the Ctrl and use mouse wheel to decrease and increase the zooming. So yeah, that was all about the module browser, just a short intro, and then I'm gonna show you my favorite modules that I live in by and sorting by using this module browser. So I'm gonna start with my template, and I don't include any modules in browser because I don't have to. When I will need of another chronoblock, for example, I just hit Ctrl D and this one will be duplicate, and I don't need to see one more in module browser. So let's start with the clocked module. Is my main clock source with settings like that. Here is a also nice auto patch function. You can just copy it and hit Ctrl M or auto patch connect to the master, and all three cables from reset, run and BPM be connected, and you have more dividing and multiplying options. And the next one is a stroke from Tremolo. It allows to map some parameters and any hotkey combinations. I just use a space for triggering the run, and R Shift and R combination for activating a reset. So like in your favorite DAW. And the next one is a spin to apply a control of mouse wheel. I just use Alt function to activate it, and the sail is actually a controller. So I just press the Alt and starting using my mouse wheel, and when I need some more precise values, I just use ordinary left click button. And here is my one of the favorite reverb from XFX. I just use a template. Beware, it's pretty hungry on your CPU. And my favorite chronoblock already synced from the clocked. Favorite record module for recording some demos in MP3, and MindMill suite, of course, for EQing, mixer and sense. So let's move to the sorted modules here. I will sort it to the module name, and let's get started. So this is a expander for Tremolo Transit, a bit info a bit later. 8-phase and 8-phase 6.2 is pretty awesome expander tool. Just shortcut what it should do. Activate the module, press any random values, and you can save a preset, and it works as a universal expander. Pretty cool and pretty absolutely needed for arranging of patching. 8-third is my favorite attenuator. It's just a simple one, and it also can use as a constant value adder, for example. Just pretty nice tool to have. The next one is one of the favorite sequencer ADDR. I showed it in my Fug machine video. For example, a lot of things you're gonna do with this little beast. And here is a Book Audio AM/RM module. So actually it's by default works as ring modulator, and if you rectify it fully clockwise, you will get amplitude modulation, just negative values would cut off from there, and it stands for amplitude modulation. The next one is my favorite analog shift register from Count Modular. So it's nice to receive some CV information, for example, an LFO, like that. And then you will need a clock source. So let's connect the clock, let's activate it. And you will actually a sequenced LFO here. Let me show you. It just works as sample and hold. But it works as a conveyor, sample and hold. So it continued to send it over the next letter here. And this is all it actually does. The next one is an inverter with an offset from AS. So it's the same as an inverter I showed you before, but with an offset. So for example, you will need it for such CVs that don't have on board an inverter, and you will need some very little subtle modulation, and this beast would be absolutely neat for that. And also it receives another CV signal, so you can just animate it as you want. The next one is a Bpm Lfo, just pretty speediest workflow for synced LFOs I found. Just connect a reset, and here we go. Just a synced LFO as in your favorite virtual synth. Bassmaster is my favorite big polyphonic summator, I believe. So you will able to decrease a low in the side of the signal, or decrease and high, control it by dB or amount of width. It's pretty cool module, long weight one, and it works as expected. The next one is Erica Octosource Sinkable LFO module, or not exactly LFO, multi-wave actually. So just bring your clock input and you will get some phased stuff in there. It's pretty useful for phasing style control. And here is one of my favorite VCO from Erica. It's a black wavetable VCO. I did the video on it, and the better to know it, just watch it. And that's all. Boolean logic, my favorite Boolean logic stuff, just brings some divider and multiplier in there and gets some nice rhythms. Also did a video on it, you can find it on my channel. And the Volt boomstick is a filter, and it's pretty cool for the bass. Just a fast demonstration I'm talking about. And just drop down the octave. It's very, very deep one. pretty cool for the bass. And the next one is chord key. Also did a video on it. It's my favorite chord tool. Just set it up. Set polymerge outputs into the top one and you will get a polyphonic output. Fastest way to generate a chord you want. You can save this to the different index or use 8-phase, as I showed before. And the next one is pretty cool clock divider multiplier, just because it has input modulator. So you can bring some clock and just divide it and then modulate it. And you can filter it from dot ratios and triplet, for example. And it's pretty cool for making some unusable rhythms. Just pretty nice. It sometimes doesn't need a reset according to the manual. So the next one is my favorite random clock stuff. Also put it into my most last videos. So use probability control as a mixer for 8 output clock or triggers. And just use it. Pretty cool stuff for ambient, kind of melodic ambient. This is my favorite color, noise, think, every sort of colored noises just from the one module with modulation, of course. And this is my pretty cool, nice finding about using comparators. So just set a threshold on this LFO and you will get those triggers. And I believe it pretty useful to use for such a thing to control envelopes, just because it generates a gates. You can watch it here. Yeah, pretty cool stuff for patching. And here is a Dictat polyphonic quantizer with predefined scale. Pretty nice thing to use and has additional 3 output here. Multiplier, wavefolder, bit crusher, distorter and saturator, polyphonic, stereo, just a fast multi-effects tool, multi-distortion effects tool to use. Here's a drift generator, my favorite one from Lfo modular collection. Just pass some sequence through it, already quantized, like that, and from the sequencer, like that, clock it with a Boolean logic. And this thing adds some noisy stuff, random noisy stuff that you feel like an old, unstable VCO synth. It's pretty cool for ambient and old electronic stuff to add some instability in digital world. Here is my favorite tool for transposing incoming signal. And you can also do some inversion, all with inputting some controls like gates. Pretty nice thing to use, and it also polyphonic, which is pretty important. And here is an energy. I did a video on energy before. My favorite ring modulation oscillator. Entropia, one of my favorite semi-probability sequencer. Just drive it with some clock. And this is main CV outputs, and this is amount of probability between the main and second variation of each knob that present in internal circle. Pretty cool sequencer to experimenting with. Euclidean Sequencer from Count Modeler is my favorite yet sequencer, Euclidean Sequencer Invisibirek. It has nice visuals on what's going on, end of cycle output, steps control, everything with CV, automatic step, shift source, and this is absolutely crazy stuff that you can do with. Hope to get some video a bit later. Kitchen sink is a true 0 FM oscillator with so much additional functions like ADSR applying to those parameters, and Moog-like snappy, and of course the gate input, sync, and yeah, very nice thing to use with true 0 FM modulation. Here is my favorite even modifier. I mostly use it for just passing some stable gate, and as the output it sometimes filtered incoming gates, and you will get semi probability gate outputs. It can also act as a sample and hold module with these knobs and this output. Pretty cool thing actually. And this module make vintage every sound you have passed through it. For example, just for a second. Yeah, already noticeable effect. Also weird things here. Pretty cool. Pretty nice. And let's move on. This is Glue, my favorite tool for labeling stuff like that. And then you put some text visual info, and the grip is a nice thing to block some parameters from changing. For example, block here and apply randomize, and those parameters won't be even move with this thing. Pretty cool. That's my probably favorite gate sequencer, just because it has sharing clock and reset and pattern select, of course, via expanding. So for example, let's clock it and everything stays in sync. It's very cool. You can copy, edit page, lots of stuff to do. And here's a trick merger. You can just merge everything you want, and this thing will extract some information from the gates and put it into one output. Works as logic processor, I believe. Here is my one of recently favorite filter hole. Just make everything sounds pretty nice. Let's initialize it. Here is a pulse, actually drive it, but without any phasing issues, and resonance works pretty well, especially in lower mid range. highly recommend to make it some test drive. And here is my favorite knobs for macros or stuff like that. Just choose unipolar, bipolar mode and connect some parameters just to the one knob. And here we go. Pretty nice tools for making scenes, builds, stuff like that. One of my favorites, Slew it low random module. Just choose extreme low frequency and make some nice slow modulation stuff. Pretty cool thing. It's my favorite LFO actually. It's just basic stuff from VCV, but works as expected and has unipolar bipolar switch, which is a pretty nice tool to have. And as an additional thing to have is a pulse width modulation for LFO, just to make input and on and off state with a variable length. Pretty nice thing, the modulation, of course. Lala from Studio 61, nice stuff for separating sequencer for different processing. For example, you may separate high frequency information from the palette through the filter with the resonance, and just pass low frequency separately and controllers separately and make some weird effects with CV2. And the next one is Unity Mixer. Unity Mixer is pretty cool stuff for merging some CV info just into one output. And this one from Boc Audio has a nice mute buttons. So if you want to test is just on-off incoming sources without extracting cables from it, is a pretty cool stuff to use. And nice thing about Unity Mixer is an average output, so you will not ever clipping even put some high voltage stuff into there. So this is LFO merged with LFN and it looks pretty nice. The next thing is a mute from Boc Audio, just basic mute with ability to control it by CV. So you can pass CV or audio. It's a pretty fast, and you will get some cutting stuff like that. Pretty nice. And manual gate is my go-to tool with making some manual controls over the gate. It has inversed, on and off, toggle, momentary gate, variable length gate, and just short trigger output. It's pretty useful stuff to control everything that has a gate input in Invisibirek gate or trigger. Polyphonic Tools from 22 Revolts is just like an VCV splitter or mergers, but with reduced amounts of channel. Pretty cool thing to use it, for example, two sequencers and merge it to the one quantizer, and then get split module, or just put a polyphonic one like that and control just one oscillator via Polyphonic Quantizer, which is pretty cool. And this mixer is a nice thing to mix signals with CV output. I just like the interface, pretty handy to use, pretty nice looking. Offset from bulk audio is my favorite top notch for increase the value of incoming CV. It may pretty useful when your desirable CV control has a pretty low level. Let me show you. So, for example, you need minus to 10 volts, and this thing allows you to increase this value, for example. Pretty useful thing, and you can offset it then and can actually disable output limit, whatever you want. Pretty like this stuff. Octave Switcher is my favorite Octave Switcher one, very nice looking and CV controllable. Polyphonic as well. Octo is my favorite non-synced LFO stuff with choosable wave mode in the right click menu, and the rate speed is controlling just by using one knob for all 8 outputs. Pretty like this, especially for ambient. Pressure is my go-to compressor. For Invisibirek it has its own envelope output, which can be pretty creative stuff. You will not have to enable it with a DAW to extract a compressor curve. Very impressive. Pellet is my go-to oscillator. A lot of words already said about this. So the next thing is permutation, implementation of Turing machine with a nice control over it. Just clock it, save some sequence, random bits, adjust amount of bits and set the level. Here is everything you have to do with this module. Plateau, I will add it sometimes when I need just turn this modulation depth, increase the decay, and got some lush sounds, especially like it for pads and huge stuff like that. Polymer and Polysplit, it's pretty cool modules when you need to merge already polyphonic inputs, and you choose from 2, 4, or 8, and you can, for example, take a chord key like that, duplicate it, press random, and like that, and you will take a 4-channel polyphonic output to control whatever you want. And the Polysplit makes the same, just vice versa. This is one of the favorite Quantizer. Quant is a recent one. It has a trick output, it's polyphonic, onboard control of behavior of Quantizer, and also equal likely tones. Pretty nice mystery filter of Quantizer. And with the scale output, you can actually use your chord from keyboard or just from this module. And I didn't add some module to show it. It's from Area Salvatrice collection that converts chord to the scale module, and you can just apply it I maybe will show it in some video how it works. Another quantizer, and it show what note is exactly playing now. So if you're not familiar with the music theory, is a nice having thing. So it's kind of polyphonic sequencer works like. Pretty handy stuff. And air gate is clock divider multiplier, just as clock from 23 voltage clock divider as I showed before, but with adjustable length control, which absolutely needed sometimes, and with some options here. Nice tool to try. Rampage is my favorite time AD envelope generator. Nothing to say more. My favorite random clockable module. Just clock it and get some clockable stuff out there. Already smooth or slewed. Or step, or unipolar, bipolar, pretty cool thing. Remove nice thing to automate some parameter. Map, for example, this button, press the record and start manipulating. And then run this recorded automation. A lot of options here. I recommend to try. Resonator, I just love to do some input from any oscillator and make some percussion. Especially when it's a short one. Like that. And next thing, an ultimate sample and hold module with amount of probability per channel, divider, internal divider, and selectable negative and positive range, and ability to merge it all tracks into one polyphonic cable. Very cool tool. Here's a slim Slew limiter from Bock Audio with additional fall and shape control. And source module, I like to use in drone patches like that. So apply it to the, for example, palette, set the octave, set the pitch, and yeah, that's all. Pitch shifter is a pretty cool thing when you like to grab some input from any oscillator, for example, and pitch the stuff down or up. Very pretty useful thing. Strip is a nice thing to save the strips, to control the rows of Visibirek, just like that. Cut it or paste it, or randomize whole strips, for example. I use this switch a lot from Bock Audio. Just apply some gate or by hand, latch control. Pretty nice thing to build synths inside the Visibirek. Songster from Lindenberg is a nice BBD delay. It's pretty analog, has analog sound. So if you like analog delay, I highly recommend to use it. Scope is my absolutely go-to tool to control CV signals. And Sequential Switch. Sequential Switch has a multi-purpose module actually. So just input some clock, input some incoming CV and switch between them. Shaper is a cool thing from Squinky. It has a lot of shapers here and stereo input, so you can just process any audio source you want and even CV source by switching to the DC. Signal manifold can expand your monophonic input, for example from this sequence to the polyphonic. Just copy signals, and it can also reduce polyphonic signals to monophonic or desirable amount of channels. Pretty useful thing. The next one is Splitch, is from Area Salvatre's collection. It has 4 merge and 4 splits. Nice thing to use it with polyphonic quantizer, just like that, and then you're able to control monophonic oscillators, for example, 2 different ones. Nice 8-track slate Slew limiter from Squinky. Just put some edgy style LFO to the gate, pass it through it, and you will get slewed square LFO. Slap is my go-to combined VCA and envelope generator module. Just put some gate, put some oscillator into, and polyphonic as well, and you will get controllable VCA with switchable shapes, of course. Pretty cool thing. Slope detector is a nice thing to extract states of incoming CV. It converts into the gates or triggers, I believe. Nice thing to experiment with. Same splits as a merge I showed you before. Stairway, go-to multimode filter with polyphonic ability and strange filter sometimes, like a 3AP. All pass, low pass, notch, phaser stuff, highly recommend to try. Stereo chorus, tremolo, just 2 modules in one. Tremolo with shareable modulation frequency and chorus as well. It has a nice ability to convert monophonic input to the stereo. Here is also stereo tool from Invisibirek, poly to stereo, stereo to poly, pretty straightforward. Phaser from the Newsty as well, just my go-to phaser, Invisibirek. Super Arpeggiator is a pretty cool thing to make arpeggios based on incoming chords from your keyboard or from from VCV modules. Just force your gate and clock the beast. And you will get monophonic outputs 1 volt per octave gate or accent, and accent monophonic on polyphonic outputs with this option applied. Okay, the next one is a Supercell. Supercell is a nice module. I did a video, my go-to effect processor with lots of controls and modes. And here is a polyphonic switch to monophonic. Can work as an arpeggiator. Just apply some inputs and control it by step forward, backward, or the random control as well. So you can see how the switch works exactly, and you get a monophonic output then. Nice. A transit, absolutely go-to tool for animating a whole patch, fading between those states. Also did a video on my channel on it. Game changer tool, another game changer tool from Sturmelder. And Terraform, recent top-notch addition to synth voices. Wavetable shaper synthesizer with a lot of controls and polyphonic ability as well. My go-to VCA from VCV, just a tiny one, polyphonic beast with nice animation. Let's apply some animated, you will see what your control is doing. Variant is an expander for permutation to extract some more beats to another semi-random or random sequence. Spreader from Lindenberg can convert monophonic signal to polyphonic as a signal manifold does from count modular, but it can spread the signal, which is very useful for polyphonic oscillators to make unison driven voices. So it has up to 14 stage and some random level controls. Very cool thing to activate unison. My favorite sound design tool, X-Fade from Bok Audio, just works like a DJ fader with adjustable shape. Choose a linear mode. Just apply to audio or CV and get some morphing stuff. Pretty useful. My favorite recently addition to the distortions. It consumes a lot of CPU, but it has an absolutely amazing sound. Let's try some. Yeah, you can hear that. It has a Q control for overdrive, also X bass control, and 4 modules of tubes. Outstanding tool to distort everything you have. And heads from Autodefi, my go-to techno nice hi-hat with a cutoff and pitch and distortion. Just drive it in. One of the best hi-hats free available in Invisibirek. Detroit Sequencer from Bidu. I like it for the pulse count, gate modes, slates, skips, Very experimental sequencer based on IntelliJ Metropolis, by the way. Yeah, techno go-to tool for techno sequencer. Yeah, and this is AZ Modulo, my favorite. Pretty strange arpeggiator, but very musical. Just choose your pitches. Again, clock the beast or drive is step sequencer, and you will get this sequencer out there with controllable shift, land and step. Burst module, cool thing to reorganize your fixed step sequencer, apply some controls to the burst and drive with the clock, and you will get some triplets rhythm, and you can apply jitter as well, acceleration. Nice tool to experiment with. Also from Rewind Quantizer, I like it for monophonic inputs. Nice keyboard layout, and that's it. I use it for some monophonic patches. MuGraph is a nice tool to have fast rhythms for predefined patterns and amount of beats in the pattern. MuFX from Sturmelder, I like to use it like an octave precision adder. Just apply some chord and you can modulate it by semitones or octaves. And the last tool is my 100 top modules. Absolutely amazing micro map. Just map everything you want and drive it with any CV you find in your patch, and you will get something like this. You can change the voltage range and get those nice modulation animations. So that was my review on Sturmelder module browser and my top modules, current top modules in Visibirek. You can get this patch, my preset for Sturmelder module browser on my Patreon, as always, and thank you for watching, guys, and see you next time.